So the Nintendo Switch has sold 10 million units in under 1 year, and you may be asking yourself, how the hell has Nintendo turned it around so fast after the abysmal failure of the Wii U? Well, it's actually quite simple. I could just tell you, but I want to make this rewind video going over how they've done it. So let's go. So it all started way back in October 20th, 2016, where they made this brilliant advertisement, this brilliant sneak peek of the Nintendo Switch, where they showed a bunch of 20-sums and 30-sums using it. And it showed people playing the Nintendo Switch at their home, taking it on the go to the park to walk their dog, and then a guy playing it at the airport beside this really beautiful girl who was also playing it as well, which I mean, if you're lucky enough for that to happen to you, where you see a girl like that playing the Nintendo Switch and you sit down beside her and start playing with her, that's something that will definitely get people going out and buying the Nintendo Switch. Then to the guy playing it on the actual plane, playing Skyrim, playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And then it jumped to people at a basketball court playing real basketball, and instead of actually playing real basketball, they decided to take a break and play NBA 2K on the Nintendo Switch, which I mean, completely unrealistic, that would never happen, but it was just still a brilliant marketing idea. And then they showed how the Nintendo Switch can translate into esports, so teams getting together and being able to plan their strategy for their matches with the Nintendo Switch tablet before actually locking it in and using the Pro Controller to play their games in their esport matches. It was absolutely brilliant, got everybody so hyped, and it was the world's first exposure to the Nintendo Switch, and it was already off to a good start. Now, this type of teaser thing is not something really that Nintendo did for the Wii U. People were confused about the Wii U throughout its entire life, and I'll continue to talk about that throughout the video, but that's one of the main reasons why the Wii U failed and why the Nintendo Switch is doing so good, because people know what the Nintendo Switch is. So after that teaser, people were waiting and they wanted to know more about the Nintendo Switch, and we had to wait until January where Nintendo did their presentation announcing it and revealing everything about the Nintendo Switch. Now, this presentation wasn't that good, to be completely honest, but they did enough to get people's attention and to create hype for the console, because obviously they announced the launch date and the pricing. They talked about online services, and they talked about some of the games. Now, where they lost people was when they talked about the games, because the games they showed off weren't that great. I mean, they showed Super Mario Odyssey, but nothing other than that. They showed ARMS as well, and Splatoon, but stuff people already knew about, and nothing that was really crazy that got people too hyped. But then they showed the third-party poster, and this is where everybody thought to themselves, they kind of did the same thing with the Nintendo Wii U. So Nintendo, are they lying, or are they actually going to deliver on all of these third-party games? Many people were also a little bit confused and a little bit concerned, is probably the better word, that the Nintendo Switch at launch didn't have enough games, because they had a list of games, and really out of that list of games, if you're someone who's a hardcore gamer, which it seemed like Nintendo was really trying to appeal to the hardcore gamer more with the Nintendo Switch in the way that they did their advertising, and just in the way that they presented the Nintendo Switch to everybody. So out of the games that launched, there was really only one game that hardcore gamers really wanted to play, and that was The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So people were concerned right off the bat. They thought the console and the concept was amazing, so it didn't really hurt it when it was launched, but the games that were coming with it at launch did kind of get people concerned. So here's the list of the launch games that came with the Nintendo Switch on day one. I'm not talking about the games that came out a few weeks later, a few months later. I'm talking about the number one, day one games that came out. 1-2 Switch, Just Dance 2017, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Skylanders Imaginators, Super Bomberman R, I Am Setsuna, Snipper Clips, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment, and Fast RMX. So obviously, as you can see just by listening to these titles, it wasn't a great lineup, and it wasn't something that people were going crazy about. But if you look historically at launch lineups for a majority of consoles, they usually aren't that great. So many people who were console aficionados or people who were really involved in the industry weren't that concerned, especially because The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was looking so good, and it was a game that you'd be able to put tons and tons of hours in, that you would be able to hold yourself over until Super Mario Odyssey came out in October. And then after this announcement in January, we only had to wait 3 months when the Nintendo Switch was released on March 3rd, 2017, and when it was released, it was sold out everywhere. But it wasn't as bad as a lot of people thought it was going to be, or at least where I lived. I got mine online. It was sold out in all the stores, but I was also able to walk into a Walmart early in the morning, and I had friends who walked into GameStop/EB Games early in the morning and were able to pick one up easily, and they were even able to pick up the one with the blue and red Joycons that came with it. So the launch in terms of inventory, I don't think was as bad as people thought it was going to be, and I don't think it was as bad as people were making it out to be. And they did restock the Nintendo Switch relatively fast. If you walk into a game store right now, I can almost guarantee you'll be able to find a Nintendo Switch on the shelf. They're readily available, and you don't have to wait months and months to get it. So after its launch, Nintendo Switch has just been dropping over and over again amazing games, first party games, and they've been releasing third-party games as well that have got people going wow because of the fact of how they're optimized on that little tablet. So for example, we have Skyrim, which looks good on the Nintendo Switch. We have Doom, which looks good on the Nintendo Switch. We have NBA 2K18, which looks great on the Nintendo Switch. Then we have all those first-party games with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Zelda Breath of the Wild, obviously, Super Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and all of these awesome games that just keep dropping for the Nintendo Switch. And on top of that, you have smaller games like Sonic Forces, which is a fun game, but you can get it on the Nintendo Switch if you're into Sonic. So Nintendo is really coming through with that third-party support, and it doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon, with more and more companies looking to jump on board because of how well it's selling. So when you break down the Nintendo Switch and you ask yourself, how has this already sold 10 million units when the Nintendo Wii U was so bad? And it didn't barely sold. It only sold like 13 point something million units in its entire life. Well, it's really simple. They completely changed the way they did everything. Firstly, the advertising. The Wii U was terribly advertised. People thought the Wii U was an add-on to the Wii. No one actually had an idea that it was an additional console that you had to buy that and you had to buy different games for. So that alone was completely terrible. They didn't advertise the controller and the second screen. Nobody actually knew about it. Nobody actually knew how functional it was and how it worked with the Wii U. And overall, it was just a terribly advertised game. And since it didn't sell right away, third parties jumped off board right away. So you really had no choice other than the first party games for the Nintendo Wii U. Although they were great games, a lot of people want a game console where they can get all games from first party to third parties on it. The Nintendo Switch, on the other hand, has been advertised brilliantly. They're not using kids, they're not using families. I mean, they are in some of their stuff, but the majority of them are hardcore middle-aged gamers in their 20s to 30s, and they're realizing that that's the demographic they really have to appeal to for two reasons. One, there's tons of people in that demographic that play video games, and two, those are the people with the money in their pockets that are going to go out and buy the Nintendo Switch, whether it's for themselves, whether it's for a friend, or whether it's for their family, because they're the ones who have the money who can go out and purchase it. And they started with that type of advertising right off the bat, and they continue to do that, and that's one of the big reasons why it's selling so well. People understand what the Nintendo Switch is as well. They know it's a hybrid console, it's a game console you can take on the go as well as plug into your TV, and that alone, if you take out all the games that come with it, is so appealing to so many people. The next thing is the games, obviously. The first party games have been amazing. Breath of the Wild won Game of the Year. Super Mario Odyssey is an incredible game. If you haven't played Mario Kart 8, you can get Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Nintendo Switch, and I highly recommend it. It is so fun, and it's something that, even though it's a re-release of a game that came out on the Nintendo Wii U, it's definitely worth getting, especially if you haven't played the game. It is just such a great game. The third-party games are hitting it too. Like I said, NBA 2K18, which is one of the third-party games I bought, besides the fact of the microtransactions that has nothing to do with Nintendo, it is a great game to play on the Nintendo Switch. It's exactly like the console counterparts with a little bit of less dumbed down graphics. Also, I'm playing Sonic Forces as a third-party game, and that is a fun game too on the Nintendo Switch. I would recommend getting that on the Nintendo Switch if you're looking to get that game. Then you have Skyrim and you have Doom, which are both great games. They're re-releases. However, the fact that they perform so well on the Nintendo Switch is a huge selling point for people because they want to be able to take that game on the go. And besides the games that have been released, there's always something now to look forward to on the Nintendo Switch, because 2018 is going to be another great year, and there's games coming out throughout the entire year that people have to look forward to. Whereas with the Wii U, you had such big gaps between games that once you finished it, you just didn't know what to do for a long time. So if you look at 2018 for the Nintendo Switch, there's so many great stuff coming out. So there's a new Kirby game, there's a new Yoshi game, there's a new Fire Emblem game, there will be the new Metroid game that comes out, there'll be the new Shin Megami Tensei game, there'll be Project Octopath Traveler, which they gave people a demo to, which looks great. There will be a Wolfenstein 2 coming out. So there's just so much to look forward to, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be slowing down. And the more that the console sells, the more third parties will jump on board, and the more games we will get. And finally, the last big thing I think is another reason why the Nintendo Switch has sold 10 million units already is availability and inventory. And I'm not basing this off of any concrete numbers or anything. I'm just basing it off of personal experience of walking into Walmart, walking into Best Buys, walking into EB Games. And at any point, I'm able to pick up the Nintendo Switch. There's no waiting, and there's no waiting for the next shipment to be able to get one, which is completely different than the Nintendo Wii if we're comparing it to consoles that sold well, which sold about 14 million units in its first year, and Nintendo is debating whether they think the Switch will be able to meet the 14 million or be able to surpass the Nintendo Wii in its first year. And honestly, if Nintendo had increased the inventory for the Nintendo Wii and not made it so difficult to get, I think it would have sold a lot more than the 14 million in that first year. Now, don't get me wrong, the Nintendo Switch has a lot of hype. Everyone's talking about it and a lot of people know about it. but it's still, in my opinion at least, not even near the amount of hype and not even near the amount of fanfare that the Nintendo Wii had, because the Nintendo Wii was literally everywhere you went and everybody was talking about it. People who didn't know anything about video games were talking about it. When I talk about the Nintendo Switch with people who don't know anything about video games, a lot of them still don't really know what it is, or they ask questions about it, but it wasn't like that at all with the Nintendo Wii. So will the Nintendo Switch pass the Nintendo Wii in first year sales? It's definitely possible, but I don't think that it makes it a stronger console in any way, and I don't think that it will catch that 100 million, and I could be completely wrong, and I may bite my words at the end of its life, but I don't think it will catch that 100 million solely due to the fact that the inventory is available and it still may not outsell the Nintendo Wii in its first year, when that was a console that was really hard to get your hands on. So that's just a quick look at how the Nintendo Switch has gotten to where it is today. I would love to know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you have a Nintendo Switch? Do you love the Nintendo Switch? And do you think it will surpass the Nintendo Wii in lifetime sales? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button, share it, and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and I'll catch you in the next video.